A little mouse began running up and down his body. This awakened lion, who placed his huge paw upon the mouse and opened his big jaws to swallow him. "Pardon, O king!" cried the little mouse. "Forgive me this time. I shall never forget it. Who knows, I may be able to help you one day." The lion was so amused at the idea of a mouse helping him that he lifted his paw and let him go. A few days later, the lion was caught in a hunter's net. He roared loudly. The little mouse heard him and ran to the spot. He gnawed the ropes with his sharp teeth and set the lion free. The tortoise and the hare. A hare was boasting about his speed before the other animals. "I have never yet been eaten," he said. "I challenge anyone here to race with me." The tortoise said quietly, "I accept your challenge." The race began. The hare darted almost off outside at once, but soon stopped and, to show his contempt for the tortoise, lay down to have a nap. The tortoise plowed on and plowed on. When the hare awoke from his nap, he saw the tortoise just near the winning post. The hare ran his fastest, but he was too late. The tortoise had won the race. Chirping and singing to its heart's content. He was enjoying the golden sunshine and the abundance of green leaves, feeling that life would always be this easy. An arm passed by, bearing his, with great effort, an ear of corn he was taking to his nest. He was sweating and exhausted, but he did not stop for a single moment. "Why not come and chat with me?" said the grasshopper, "instead of toiling and moiling in the way." "I'm helping to lay out food for the winter," said the ant, "and I recommend you to do the same." "Why bother about winter?" said the grasshopper. "We have got plenty of food at present." But the ant went on its way and continued its toil. When the winter came, the fields were covered with snow and the wind blew cold. The grasshopper found itself dying of hunger, while it saw the ants distributing every day corn and grain from the stores they had collected in the summer. The grasshopper knocked on the ant's door, shivering and weak. "Please, may I have a grain of corn?" he begged. The ant looked at him and asked, "What did you do all summer?" "I was busy singing and dancing," the grasshopper replied sadly. The ant shook its head. "If you were foolish enough to sing all summer, you must dance supperless to bed in the winter." The elephant and the loyal dog. Once, in a grand royal garden, lived a majestic elephant named Gajendra. He was the king's favorite, decorated with gold and silk during festivals. However, despite the luxury, Gajendra was very lonely. He spent his day tied to a heavy wooden post, eating the finest fruit but having no one to talk to. One afternoon, a skinny stray dog wandered into the garden. He was hungry and looking for a scrap of food. While the trainers were away, the dog saw the piles of bananas and coconut husks near Gajendra's feet. Frightened but desperate, the dog began to eat the leftovers. Gajendra, instead of being angry, watched the little creature with curiosity. He picked up a sweet banana with his trunk and gently placed it in front of the dog. The dog looked up, wagged his tail, and ate the gift. From that day, from that day on, the dog became a regular visitor. Months passed, and the two became inseparable. The dog would sleep near the elephant's massive legs, and Gajendra would gently spray water on the dog during hot afternoon. They share a bond that the palace guards had never seen before, a giant and a stray living in perfect harmony. However, one day a wealthy merchant saw the dog and was impressed by its intelligence. He offered the elephant's trainer a large sum of money to buy the dog. The greedy trainer, thinking only of profit, shot the dog without the king's knowledge. The dog was taken far away to a distant city. Gajendra was heartbroken. He stopped eating, he refused to bathe and ignored the king's command. The golden ornaments on his back grew dusty and his eyes lost their spark. The king's doctors could find no illness. Finally, a wise minister observed the elephant and said, "Your Majesty, this elephant is not sick in the body, he is sick in the heart. He has lost his friend." The king immediately ordered a search for the dog. When the merchant heard the royal decree, he released the dog at once. The dog ran for miles, guided by his memory and the scent of the garden. When the dog finally burst through the garden gates, Gajendra let out a loud, joyous trumpet. He lifted the dog with his trunk and placed him on his head. The elephant began to eat again, and his strength returned instantly. The king, seeing this, decreed that the dog should never be taken away again. The great migration of the silver forest. Deep within the silver forest, where the trees whisper secret to the wind, lived a diverse community of animals. For generations they had lived in peace, but one year a terrible drought struck. The rivers turned into dusty paths, and the lush green leaves withered into brown husks. The great council of animals gathered at the ancient oak. Kyle, a wise and elderly stag, stood as the center. Beside him was Sora, a sharp-eyed falcon, and Bodo, a grumpy but kind-hearted bear. "The water is gone," Kyle announced, his voice heavy. "We must travel to the Blue Mountains, beyond the burning desert. It's a long journey, and many say it is impossible for a group so diverse to survive together." The animals were terrified. The rabbits feared the fox, and the smaller birds feared the hawks. But Kyle insisted, "On this journey there are no predators and no prey. There are only travelers." As they began their trek, the heat became unbearable. The smaller animals, like the hedgehogs and mice, struggled to keep up. Seeing this, the larger animals stepped in. Bolo the bear allowed the tired squirrel to ride on his thick fur, while the elephants used their massive ears to create shade for the lizard walking below them. One night, a fierce sandstorm arrived. The wind howled like a thousand wolves. Sora the falcon soared high above the gusts, using her keen vision to find a rocky canyon where the animals could huddle together. They formed a tight circle, the strong on the outside, the weak in the middle, protecting each other from the stinging sand. After weeks of walking, they reached the edge of the Blue Mountains, but a wide, rushing river blocked their path. The water was dark and cold. "I cannot swim," cried the fowl. "The current is too strong for us," chirped the blue jays. Kyle looked at the tall, fallen cedar tears nearby. Under his direction, the beavers began to move down the track, while the elephants pushed the heavy logs into the water to create a bridge. The monkeys tied the logs together using strong strings they had carried from the forest. It was a masterpiece of teamwork. One by one, from the heaviest rhino to the lightest butterfly, they crossed the river of shadows. When they finally reached the peaks of the Blue Mountains, they found a paradise. The grass was emerald green and crystal clear, like reflecting the sky. The animals looked at each other. They were thinner and tired, but they were different. The fox was sharing a meal with a rabbit. The falcon was chatting with the sparrow. They had realized that their survival didn't depend on their strength alone, but on their ability to trust those who were different from them. Kyle stood on a high rock, looking over the new home. We didn't just find water, he said softly. We found a new way to life. And so the silver forest lived on in the blue mountains, not as a group of different species, but as one single family. Follow me for more stories. Legend of the Midnight Fairy. In the frozen heights of the Iron Mountains, there lived a wolf pack known as the Shadow Runners. Their leader, a massive wolf named Fenris, ruled with a cold heart. According to their law, only the strongest deserved to eat, and the weak were left to fend for themselves. Leo was a young wolf, smaller than his brother, but gifted with a curious mind. While the others practiced fighting, Leo watched the stars and studied the plants of the forest. He believed that the pack's cruelty was the reason they were slowly disappearing. One winter, a great silence fell over the mountains. The deer hiked south, and the rabbits stayed deep underground. The shadow runners began to start. Fenris, desperate to maintain power, decided to attack the highland village, a place where humans live with their fierce hunting dogs. It is suicide, Leo barked during the council. The humans have fire and silver. We should follow the birds to the Hidden Valley to the west. Fenris laughed. His teeth barked. A wolf follows the scent of blood, not the flight of birds. If you are afraid, Leo, you are no longer part of this band. Leo was exiled. He traveled alone through the blizzard, his fur met with ice. On his birthday, he found an unlikely friend, an old raven named Eugene, whose wing was called Rainbow Bossy. Instead of eating the bird, Leo used his teeth to gently lick him. You are strange wolf, Eugene croaked. Most would have had me for the lunch. To thank you, I will show you the way to my night valley, a place where the snow never traps the soul. As Leo and Eugene traveled, they spot the shadow runner in the distance. They're walking straight into a human trap near the village. Leo had a choice: continue to safety of the valley or risk his life to save the pack that had abandoned him. He chose to return. Using his knowledge of the forest path, Leo intercepted the pack just as human hunters were raising their rifles. He didn't use his clothes, he used his voice. He let out a howl so unique, a mixture of warning and song, that it confused the hunting dogs and signaled the pack to retreat into a hidden cave. Seeing Leo's wisdom and bravery, the younger wolf refused to follow Fenris anymore. They realized his strength was not just about muscle, but about protection and intelligence. Fenris shamed and alone vanished into the shadow. Leo led the pack guided by Eugene the Raven across the picturesque peaks until they reached the Midnight Valley. It was a place of endless spring where the water was sweet and the pack lived in harmony with the land. Leo became the first solar king of the world, teaching them that the greatest power a hunter has is the choice to be kind. So, if you want a lot of stories more like this, you can follow me and ring the bell for the next notification of a new video. Thank you for watching and listening to our story. If you want to hear the story, not animal, you can comment and like. Don't forget to subscribe our video. Goodbye.